distinguished guests here at Dakota County Technical College. My name is Michael Barrett. I'm the president here at DCTC, as well as at Inver Hills Community College. Our shared mission is to help students learn, discover, and build a better future. At DCTC, that mission is focused strongly on education for employment. In Dakota County, career and technical education is critical to economic prosperity. One is only to step in front of the college to see the rapid expansion of housing and business development. Just yesterday, the U of M approved the sale of property right next door to the college to Meta for a proposed $700 million development of a data center. When you add these private developments to the ambitious federal and state infrastructure investments, we are going to need more builders, more electricians, more HVAC technicians, commercial truck drivers. And when these businesses are operational, we're going to need trained technicians and professionals across all business functions. And the people these businesses attract to our county will need more healthcare workers, teachers, daycare professionals, police officers, and all the 1,000 jobs that go along with a growing community. I'm proud of the work we do here at DCTC to meet these workforce needs, from faculty like Matt Bodeno, who takes a deep interest in student achievement and works closely with industry partners to anticipate what skills are needed, especially in the growing HVAC vehicle market, or that HVAC, EV. To our support staff, too, who recognize that raising the bar also means providing access to food, transportation, mental health support, and career navigation, and creating an inclusive, equity-minded learning environment where all of our students can achieve their educational goals. And then finally, to our student leaders, who not only advocate for their peers, but actively recruit them into student life. With student leaders like Max Mallory and Alexis Nordley, we've seen record levels of student involvement in campus life, and that is good for future civic engagement. So again, welcome to DCTC. It's now my pleasure to turn the microphone over to Randi Weingarten, President of the American Federation of Teachers.
Thank you.
Thank you. Once a teacher, always a teacher. So I am so happy to be here, and I am so happy that, I would say months and months ago, you need me to speak in the mic. Okay, sorry. I guess my teacher voice doesn't work enough for the press today. So months and months ago, Representative Craig and I were just talking, you think we're talking social, you think we're talking about on-clouds. No, we're talking CTE. We're talking vocational ed, we're talking about grandkids, and then we go back to vocational ed. And we talked about this trip so many months ago because having pathways, and this is probably the most important thing I can say, and I'm looking at all of you saying it, creating pathways for high school and college students, particularly in light of all that kids have been through in the last several years, so that you walk out of high school, you walk out of community college, you walk out of technical college, you walk out of college with lots and lots and lots of choices. That has become my passion project. And I know it's Representative Craig's passion project. And on top of that, what's happening is this federal government, led by President Biden, has really re-envisioned an industrial policy for the United States, a manufacturing renaissance. So it's great that Meta is coming in here. We got to do some things with Meta about, their social media policies, but it's great they're coming here. But it's also great that you have Governor Walz and you have these amazing senators in the Senate as well who are starting to do this alignment. And with us, we have Denise Specht, the president of Ed Minnesota, who is as excited about all of this as I am, except, I'm from New York, so I do it with my hands. But that's why people have to see, touch, and feel what really works. And so really, Secretary Cardona, I'm so glad that this is part of your bus tour, because that alignment right now, between the jobs of today and tomorrow, and creating these pathways and real agency for young people so they get to choose what they want to do in life. 94% of kids who go to qualified CTE programs in high school graduate from high school on time, and 70% of them go to college. I've watched this for years. I taught at a career tech ed school in Brooklyn, New York, as an AP history teacher. So don't tell me about stigma here, because this is a huge path for the jobs of today and tomorrow. So you can see how excited I am about being here. And what we're doing as the AFT moving forward is we're taking things that we see, how they can be scaled, how they can be sustained, how they can be seeded, so that across America, every single student K-12 has experiential learning experiences like CTE, has ways of actually dealing with loneliness, learning loss, practical skills, and literacy. And we call it, and that's where I'll end, where, you know, the pieces of paper I just handed out. These are the solutions that people in America want. These are the solutions that Governor Walz this year in Minnesota really pushed forward in the state legislature. These are the solutions that Ed Minnesota has been pursuing. But this is what you're doing every single day. So I'm so delighted to be here and honored to have been invited. Thank you.
Good morning, everyone, and to Secretary Cardona and the distinguished guests that are up here. It's nice to be part of this conversation. Did not necessarily know that I was going to be up and speaking at this moment. You have road construction and every other thing that made it difficult to get here. I don't know about others. But I'm just honored to be here because we're talking about multiple pathways. We're talking about career pathways. As a former teacher, principal, superintendent, the need for this pathway, the need for students to be able to experience access and opportunity. Post-secondary options and success comes in so many different forms. And I'm just honored to be sitting here and happy that this is part of your stop, because students from all across the state of Minnesota can benefit. There's a need, the business community needs it, the workforce needs it, all of Minnesota needs it. I'm glad I'm here with President Specht as she's sitting here, because we have these conversations. And I'm glad that legislators are out in the audience also in this important endeavor as we're sitting here talking about the success of students after they graduate, and also being able to make sure that students feel grounded in school, that there's a reason that they're there, that they can find their passion. And there's so many different students that not necessarily finding their success, whether it's in band or math or science, but in careers. I've had students from in my 30 years who they are in different pathways and they are running businesses. People didn't necessarily think that they could do that, but they are doing that and they're being successful. So I'm just happy that we're having this conversation. Thank you. And I didn't do it with my hands because I'm not from New York.
Thank you so much, Commissioner. My name is Angie Craig, and I want to formally welcome the Secretary and, of course, President Weingarten, Randi, the 2nd District of Minnesota. For those of you who have known me for a little while, you know that career skills and technical education are near and dear to my heart. DCTC and Green Hills Community College are very near and dear to my heart, so I just want to welcome the entire panel here today to talk about this really important topic. You know, I'm the wife of a teacher, I'm the daughter of a teacher, and I'm the mother of 4 sons, one who went to trade school, chose to go to trade school over a 4-year college. He is now an incredibly successful machinist. He's off my payroll. And I couldn't resist the opportunity to also mention that he just adopted his first child this week, and so I'm now a grandmother for the 2nd time. And Senator Smith, you knew I would find a way
I knew
to
you
mention
would.
my grandson.
I'll have my own news to
My
share.
opening remarks. I just thought I'd do it first so you'd have an opportunity.
Yes, every time.
Look, I believe very strongly that a person's work experience and their life skills should count in our workforce today. And to put a punctuation mark on that, earlier this year, I became the first member of the United States Congress to announce that I will no longer require a 4-year degree for any position in my congressional office. None. And when you think about that, think about the fact that one of my best policy advisors here in Minnesota is a farmer who farms 1,200 acres in Dakota and Goodhue counties. Tell me that a 4-year degree person is more experienced to advise a member of Congress on farm policy than an actual farmer who happens to not have a 4-year degree in our country. So I'm incredibly proud to have all of you here today. Michael, thank you to DCTC and the staff, and of course to Matt, who I've met a number of times here, for everything that each of you do. I'm going to keep working on these challenges, these pathways to career and technical skills, because our businesses need it. We have workforce challenges in our communities, in this district, that we have to solve, and I believe this is the only way we're going to solve it. So again, thank you. I look forward to a productive discussion. And with that, I will turn it over to Senator Smith.
Thank you. Thanks. Thank you very much. Now, I know Angie is the proud grandmother of 2 babies now. I'm expecting Archie and I are expecting 2 new grandchildren in December. So we're very excited. I'll keep you all posted. Stay, watch Instagram or whatever. But I'm just really delighted to be here. I want to thank President Burnt and all of your team for welcoming us back. Secretary Cardona and I were remembering that we were here with Angie, with President Biden when was that?
It was 21.
Last session of Congress.
Yeah, that's right. Last session of Congress to celebrate the passage of President Biden's Infrastructure Act, Bipartisan Infrastructure Act. And so it is great to be back with everybody here, all of my colleagues on this table, and especially all of you, and especially the students and the educators that are with us today. Really am grateful to be with you. I want to just note that there's been so much work done on career and technical education and training, and we have some legislative friends in the audience. Representative Cheryl Joachim, who works really hard on this. Am I missing anybody else who's here? I'm grateful for all the work that Governor Walz and Lieutenant Governor Flanagan and the legislature has done on this topic. So just take a minute and think about what has been accomplished over the last 2.5, 3 years. With an administration and a Congress that is really dedicated to the principle that every American, whether they go to college or not, should have fair access to training and a path towards a career that is going to be able to allow them to support their families, that has dignity, that has respect. That is what this is really all about. And since the beginning of this administration, we have seen incredible progress. Private companies alone have invested over $470 billion made commitments of over $470 billion in new manufacturing and new economic activity in this country. And that on top of the $270 billion in the Infrastructure and Jobs Act. So think about what that means. 13 million new jobs, 800,000 manufacturing jobs. It's so many numbers, but what does it all boil down to? It boils down to a huge opportunity for people who have the training and the skills to be able to step into that and be ready to fill those jobs. And that is why this place is so important. That's why this place and the people that are working here and are learning here are so important. The goal here, what matters, is that everybody has the freedom and the opportunity to build the lives that they want. They have the skills to build the lives that they want. And that's what's happening. right here in this place, thanks to the incredible talent that is making this place work every single day. So I'm so excited to be here to celebrate what you're doing, to learn from what you're doing, to figure out how we can take this back. Angie and I can take this back to Congress to figure out how to build on these successes and to continue to support what you're doing. And I know you all know this because I know that she's been here probably countless times, but Representative Craig is the fiercest fighter for career and technical education and the promise that this holds for people to be able to build the lives that they want of anybody that I know in Congress. So it's always a lot of fun to be here with you and to be able to be a part and support your work. And it's really great to be here again with Secretary Cardona, who has become a real friend and ally of mine in Washington, D.C. And what I love about Miguel is that he is himself a practitioner. He's a hands-on guy. He has run educational institutions. He's a former principal. He has kids in high school. And so this is not an abstract intellectual exercise for him. This is about what he sees every single day, what he knows how to do. And so we are so blessed to have him leading the Department of Education and doing the work that we need to do in this country to, as he is saying, raise the bar for our educational institutions and for all of us so that we can seize this great opportunity. So please join me in welcoming Secretary Cardona.
Thank you very much. Thank you, Senator, and I want to thank Representative Craig for the invitation to be, more importantly, for your fierce advocacy for what we're here to celebrate and lift up today. Thank you for that. Thank you, Commissioner Jett, Randy. We've had conversations for the last 2 years about the opportunities in this country around this space, so I'm glad to be here with you. But even more glad that we have such a strong partnership and a shared vision around what we need to do to make sure we raise the bar in this space. President Berndt, great to be back here. I visited 44 states. I think I visited maybe 1 or 2 schools twice, and this is one of them. You're doing some great things here. You and your team are doing great things here. And Senator, it was great to spend some time with you today, earlier as well. Look, a great education is your best economic driver. We're going to talk a little bit about the opportunities that are coming, but let me say it again. A great education is your best economic driver. And you get that here. You get that here. Not only for the students that participate in it, but for the community, for the state. I love to hear that companies are coming in. A great education system is a magnet for investments in the community, for industry partners to set up shop near you because you're doing it so well. That's what I'm seeing across the country. That's what I'm seeing across the country. And I'm excited. I'm coming up to my 30-year anniversary of graduation from high school. I graduated as an automotive technician from a technical high school. I learned to fix cars for 4 years. CTE that's what I did. That's what I chose for high school. I graduated with options. And I'm going to tell you right now, that experience at a technical high school, without question, is part of the reason why I'm sitting here as your Secretary of Education. You graduate with options, you graduate with skills, and the ability to choose different things. I chose teaching. Love that choice. But I had options when I graduated. And across the country, it's time we raise the bar, lead the world, and make sure we're taking advantage of the opportunity in this country. Over the last 2.5 years, with the CHIPS and Science Act, the climate provisions of the Inflation Reduction Act, the bipartisan infrastructure plan, millions of high-skill, high-paying jobs are going to be available. Shame on us if we're not preparing the next generation of students to be in those careers, to lead in those spaces. We're going to make things in America. That's the president's commitment. We're going to make things in America. We learned with the pandemic, the supply chain issues. We have a solution. We're going to make things here in America, and we're going to rely on pathway models to be the rule, not the exception. So as part of our, you handed out flyers too, so you're an educator. I walk around with this, and I want you to take a look at it. We have a game plan. I'm confident in the future of our education system when I see programs like this. When I see programs that connect to high school, 2-year schools, 4-year schools, industry partners. This is part of our Raise the Bar, Lead the World strategy, to make sure we're creating pathways for students to go into these careers that are going to be available to them. You know, high skill, high paying jobs. You have a 6-figure income in a lot of these careers, not 6 figures of debt for 4-year college. I've talked to so many students who said, this is a game changer for me. And I can continue to college now. Sometimes the employers are the ones that are paying for your college. Look, it works. You know this because you're doing it right. As a matter of fact, you know, thank you for the invitation, but part of this bus tour thing is to lift up places that are doing it right. You don't need people in D.C. telling you how to do it. Pay attention to the people here. See what they're doing. See what worked, what didn't work. Acknowledge the fact that we need relationships to get this done. Right? We need partnerships with our unions, and we're proud to say that we're encouraging these careers to have union labor. We're proud of this work, and we're here to hear from you all. So what we're going to do now is listen a little bit to your perspective on this. But I want to tell you that we're here to lift up what you're doing at DCTC and share across the country that if you're looking for a model that takes it up a notch, come check this place out. I'd love to hear, and it's going to be an open question. You know, I know there's a big audience there, there's cameras, but I'm going to act like cameras not on you, like you're not on national news, you're not going to be tweeted everywhere. just forget about that. What are some of the in-demand careers that are going to become available in the coming years that you're preparing for, or that you know are needed right now that this technical college is meeting that demand? And in no particular order. I do want to hear from everyone, though. And I was a 4th grade teacher, so I will call on you if there's a long time.
I don't mind taking it off.
Please.
Great.
Just to introduce myself briefly, my name is Max Melber. I'm the Student Senate President here at DCTC, and I'm in the software development program. And we're seeing a really big burst of IT programs, jobs become available. We even have a data center pick up nearby. We're going to need a lot of network administrators, software developers, and IT managers, which are the programs that we offer here. There are certificate options for people who don't want to do the full degree. And so really, what you are all talking about is they put you at the front of the pipeline. They don't show you 5 pipelines. They put you at the start of one, and then they help you get to the end of it. And I think that's really going to be important for growing these programs, growing the technical programs on the technology side, as well as continuing to grow vocational programs.
Great. Well said. Thank you, Matt. Others?
My name is Gabe Krebs, former alumni from Dakota County. Went through the heavy-duty truck program. Graduated and finished my career, my education here in 2019. Since then, I've worked in the industrial industry for diesel mechanics, and recently changed back over to a little more construction-based position. But big thing that I noticed, obviously, we all went through the COVID era, and one of the things that stuck out to me was who was labeled an essential worker during that time. Which, if you look at all those positions, those are the ones that keep the world turning, keep the food on the table for you, clothes at the stores, fuel at the gas stations. Those are the people that are building America here. So without those, that was a big pointer for me for looking at what career I want to continue to be in, and regardless of whatever the economic turn is, those jobs will have to be there to keep things moving. So those are the careers that are supported and taught here at the school. So that's another great place about this school here in particular.
Great. Thanks, Gabe.
My name is Alexis Norton. I'm a student currently, and I'm Vice President of Student Senate. My program is medical coding, and so that's involved with billing for health services. And I've been learning about the history of that, and it is very recent. I kind of went into it thinking, oh, this has been around forever. But the international standards for medical coding for diagnosis and procedures is actually really new, and we've all seen in COVID times and just, any time that you're getting care services, how important that is. So this is a huge field growing, and now, I didn't know about it 2 years ago, and now I just won't shut up about it.
Could I just ask what you like about it?
Well, I thought, this is so embarrassing, I thought going into it that it was going to be like HTML or Java coding, and I was excited to be kind of like, learning more about technology and what goes on behind the scenes, but that's actually not it at all. And I was really surprised, like first semester. And so what I really like about it is I get to learn a lot of medical terminology, I get to learn all of these different diagnoses and the history of how all of this has kind of come to pass. And I'm what's it called, non-traditional student. I'm 40 years old. So I also got to see a lot of this happen in my lifetime. So that's just been so fascinating, kind of getting a better view on things that happened when I was in my teens and 20s and not really paying attention.
Well, I can tell you the passion you have in it. And there's a lot of options. I like what you said earlier, like to get you to the beginning, you still have many options. And for some of those, it's going into the workforce. For some, it's continuing your education in something you love, right? You already found something you love if you continue your education. Matt, the connections, for me, intentional collaboration, intentional relationships matter. I'd love to hear a little bit about how the connections with K-12 schools and then the connections with industry partners. How do you do that here?
That's a great question. We work heavily with our industry, especially in the automotive side. We have great partnerships with all of the industry, like Chrysler, Tesla, a lot of the manufacturer side of things. But then we also partner with many of the local dealerships and the local repair shops that are in our area to be able to fill their needs with students that they need for their workforce, and to make sure we're meeting their requirements to be successful and to have a good paying wage at their shops.
Tell me a little bit more about that, because I think, as the changes in the automotive industry take place, how do you adapt? Like, are you malleable? Those relationships, does that foster that? And then I'd love to hear what connections with high schools or feeding into these programs. But tell me a little bit about how you're nimble.
Yeah, with the whole change with the push for electrification of these vehicles, in our industry, we've had to make a very drastic change where these students that are coming into our programs not only just need to know cars of yesteryear, but now they need to know all this new technology that's coming out. It's more than I needed to know when I went through the program.
You learned about carburetors, right?
Exactly. Yeah. Everything was mechanical back then. Now we're into so much electronics,
right.
And the challenge is electricity for a lot of students. It's a hard principle to grasp, and it's just a whole new thing than what it was in the past. But that's kind of got to where you were talking about, like partnerships with the high schools, and that is we have a lot of partnerships with local area high schools that we have them start to grow, especially if they've got some sort of automotive program there or trade program. They can start teaching some of those principles that are otherwise challenging or take more time just because there's so much more content to it.
Yeah.
They can start growing it there and then pass them along into our programs to be able to build them up to be a good quality technician out in the industry.
That's awesome. We were in Missouri, it was yesterday, the day before, in a high school that was preparing students for, programs like this one. And they had gas vehicles, and they had electric vehicles, and they were learning both, just to be exposed to it. And I have to tell you, Cabinet Secretary Granholm, Department of Energy, and I were talking one day. She was so excited about all these battery plants that are opening up, and they're exciting, and they're going to do this, they're going to do that. And I said, well, tell me where they're going to be, and give me a contact, because I want to make sure that the community colleges next to it are connected with them. And the reality is, these plants, when they're looking to set up shop, they're looking to schools to say, hey, is that the place that can give me that workforce? And not only that, a lot of these plants are saying, I'm going to set up shop near a school where they can provide professional learning opportunities for my staff, skill them up. So to me, everybody wins here. It is an economic driver for the community, and we're seeing that across the country. Denise, you want to share a little bit about why the partnerships matter?
Oh, for sure.
Yeah, thank you for the opportunity. And I do want to start by saying thank you so much for being here and for focusing on CTE and the work that's happening here. I mean, they've been doing CTE here before CTE was cool. So we're really glad that people are catching up. And I think the reason why people are catching up is because they see the value, they see the need. And think about it back in 2007, 2008, when we were in an extreme financial crisis. Our 2-year campuses were the solution for people really reinventing themselves, reinventing their career at a time of turmoil. But now we see, you know, a time of like, we don't even know what's coming. We don't even know what the jobs are of the future. And that's like, the answer is right here. So thank you to everybody for catching up. We think it's cool and we want it to be even more cool. And that means we need to be extending our partnerships. I think that, you know, I represent educators E12 in higher ed, Minnesota State College faculty here on this campus and all over the state. And we simply need to be aligned and we need to be talking to one another. But what we're seeing I think, is the, over time, the underfunding or unfunding of CTE, especially in the E12 world. But I know that it's here too. And so I think if we think about two things, one is, how do we keep the investments going? We have to invest, but also, how are we investing in the faculty and the students? I mean, we've got educator shortages. I know it's part of your plan and you are aware of that, but we've got educator shortages all over the place. And that's impacting this institution too. So I think if we can continue to talk about that, that would be really important.
You know, it's all connected. I visited a school, it was a high school, that had a welding program. And the two-year school, two-year college was showing the students how to code. Okay? So if you're a welder that knows how to code, you're going to do all right. We had a hard time keeping the teachers. The first-year welders were making more than the welding teacher.
Yeah, that's right.
So we need to think about the infrastructure around this. This is an economic driver if we invest in it, right? So I think your point is well taken. And we have about 5 minutes left, so I'm going to throw a question out there for anyone around the table. We talk a lot, and I know sometimes, you know, I certainly as a tech school grad had a little bit of a chip on my shoulder about the stigma around CTE. I think I'm past that. I'm at the point now, how do we promote this around the country? I was with a mayor, a lieutenant governor yesterday who recognized, they were on the visit, they recognized the importance of building these out. It's good for the community. What are some thoughts around the table here? How do we promote this to make sure that people understand, forget the stigma, this is where we need to go to provide our students options. And yes, they can lead to four-year college if they want to go. Yes, they can go on and continue into the workforce. They have options. I'd love to hear from folks around the table. Thoughts on that?
I don't mind taking that. So like Alexis, I'm also a non-traditional student, and I think that's where a lot of these programs shine. I was a wildland firefighter before this for about 3 years, and I thought that going back to college was going to be the scariest thing I ever did. And I've run into the woods and they're been on fire. You've all seen it on the news right about this time of year. It always looks like that. Those yogies are everywhere. But to immediately come in and that fear goes away. And I think promote that it's okay. So you can do it at your own pace. You don't have to go full time. You can do it. There's support networks here that will help you plan your schedule around work, make sure that your college advisors know what your schedule is so they can plan your courses accordingly. There's no shortage of help that you can get here, and they will advocate for you. So I think promoting that advocacy that you're not alone, this is, yes, it's fearful. But if what I just said doesn't ring true for some other people in here that have gone through the same thing, gone back to school, a little later in life, I mean, it's completely different. We had a whole pandemic since the last time I was being educated at an institution. But I can do it, and so can everyone else.
Lifting up your stories. Thank you, Max. Others?
Am I?
I was just going to mention that, look, as community leaders, we need to make sure that we are lifting up these choices in our discussions. I think for too long, as we were looking at, laws like No Child Left Behind, where before I got to Congress, and we emphasized in our schools that every single student had to have a four-year college degree, bringing that experience of working for a Fortune 500 company where we needed workers, and not all of those workers needed a college degree, but many of those jobs were six-figure jobs. That revolution is coming again in our country, and we can feel it. And there are all kinds of trends like AI coming, and I think this is going to be the kind of institution where we can really cater the skills and experience to the jobs that exist in our local community. So I would say for elected leaders, we need to talk very positively about opportunities associated with career and technical education. And then we need to show people the economic opportunities that exist within these careers. Matt, I think you were going to say something.
Well, thank you. Yeah, I think what it really comes down to part of this is working with our local high schools and their counselors. It's been, I've got a child that is just going on to college now, and I remember them saying right away that it was, they kind of the push to the 4-year, and just there didn't seem to be a lot of the push to educate on what's available at the 2 years. So I think just the partnership with the high schools, especially just getting them to kind of break from that norm that not everybody doesn't need to go to a 2-year and start them off at the, not to go with 4-year, but start off at 2-year and they can always go on from there.
Matt, in Secretary, if I can.
Sure, please.
So one of the things that we've been doing is going around to schools across the state of Minnesota and in asking students this same question, and I was glad to be able to hear students talk about this. At the high school level, what you hear them, what comes out of their mouths is, help me find my virtuosity. Okay? Help me find my virtuosity. Let me know that this is a great opportunity to make a wonderful living. Okay? Also that they're going to be a productive member of society. And then the thing that always resonates with me is they talk about their spirit and how they feel. And so when you talk about them discovering their virtuosity, that they're going to be a productive member of society, but then that it resonates in their spirit and their soul in terms of, I have a chance to experience and to be this positive thing in the world. That's what I would offer in terms of some of the things that we have found as we're going out asking questions and we're talking to presidents and students and things of that nature.
Yeah, that's great.
I think we need to make this a both and instead of an either or. I think all too often, I still hear that, well, let's just make sure everybody sees that there are opportunities if you don't go to college. As opposed to, let's start helping everyone, all young people, see there are opportunities. And that this is not an either or. It's not skills or college. These are just different kinds of routes that people can choose. Because once it gets tracked as either or, then we're not getting rid of the stigma, even though we are starting to get to the dignity of all work. And so that's part of the reason why we've tried a different approach by calling it, and I think this is a clunky term, experiential learning, as opposed to CTE, hands-on learning. Really thinking about, and I think that this also requires us at the federal level to think about the accountability systems differently. Because if practical skills and these kind of pathways were credited as much as a college pathway, then I think we would also be changing things up. So that's why I'm thinking we have to do both and, not either or.
Absolutely. Thank you. And our time is up. Really rich conversation. We could keep going for a couple more hours. But I want to go check out the tour. I'm excited. But so let me just close by saying this. Look, I'm a teacher, and I look at things from what's good for students. CTE instruction is just good pedagogy. You learn by doing. You're problem solving. You're working with others who have different ideas. Isn't that like what we want in our students? Right? It's just better, more engaging. I love the thought you brought up about Matt. If we don't change our systems to evolve, then we're going to get the same product. We need to make sure that our comprehensive high schools are providing earlier exposure to opportunities that exist out there. And that means making sure we're building capacity in our schools, but also giving our educators an opportunity to see what's happening. Remember I asked you, how are you evolving? Well, we need to evolve our schools. I always say we need to evolve our schools and support them as they understand what options exist for our students. I also believe we need to have a very robust parent strategy. I'm a father of a high schooler. You know, I want to make sure that my children have opportunities, right? But I happen to go to CTE, but a lot of parents think of CTE as something of a different generation where it was totally different, and they don't understand what it is now because they were never exposed to it. So how are we intentional about bringing communities in? When I was in Connecticut, one of the things we wanted to do is bring all the superintendents to an advanced manufacturing plant so they could see what it's a lab. It's beautiful. You're working on computers to get, and it's so different than what they thought it would be. So we have to change the mindset and help parents understand what options exist. And when we tell parents, look, these are the careers that are available, and this is the income debt ratio that your child will be if they choose this as an option as well. We have a collective responsibility to lift this up across the country. I really am excited about the opportunity we have. This isn't a nice to have, it's a must have in every community across our country. Again, if we're going to meet the career opportunities that are going to be available to our students that are in school right now. It's a must. I think we'd be failing our students if we don't double down on this, if we don't raise the bar in this space. At the Department of Education, we've launched a career-connected high school grant. It's open now. Just throwing it out there. It's open now for another month. There's $25 million to help seed some schools that are looking to take that next step. We have professional technical assistance. There's a wonderful site. Check it out, Unlocking Career Success, if you visit ed.gov. And there's like a how-to. If you're a governor, if you're a teacher, if you're a principal, if you're a state leader, if you're a state legislator, what are the next steps I can take? And know that at the Department of Education, man, we want to support, we want to help wherever you are to move this along. This is an exemplar that we want to lift up, because we believe that instead of hearing from us in DC, folks learn best from one another, and we want to continue to lift this model. So thank you again for the invitation and for your passion around this. And to all of us around the table, man, we have a collective responsibility, but an opportunity to raise the bar across the country. So thank you all for your partnership. Thank you.